Well, since last May when we met, we of course tabled the NATO application, and 28 out of 30 countries have already ratified Finnish membership. We have 2 countries still remaining. Those are Hungary and Turkey, and we are working every day to get the final approval from Turkey and from Hungary.
What are they asking from you?
Well, Hungary is asking basically nothing, just a delay in their parliamentary process, both with Finland and Sweden. They have promised that they will process this in February, so we are quite close to that. With Turkey, we made this trilateral agreement or memorandum of understanding together with Sweden in NATO summit in Madrid, where we agreed to work against terrorism. Of course, PKK, this Turkish terrorist organization, is forbidden also in Finland and Sweden and so forth. And I think on our expert level, this work is going quite well. Our ministers have been visiting and so forth. But of course, this is a big political step for Turkey to approve Finland and Sweden, and this political move we are still waiting.
And do you think, given the conversations you're having, that this is likely to happen before Turkey goes to its election?
Well, this is a difficult question, because actually just now when we speak, I understand that the Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu is visiting Washington. It's a very important visit also from our perspective, because US is planning a military package to sell weapons to Turkey, and this might be a little bit linked also to Turkey's approval of Finland and Sweden to NATO. I don't know exactly the details, but I'm sure that this is a topic that in Washington will be also debated between Turkey and US.
Just give us the best case scenario. What is the timeline that you're expecting in order for you to say we are now official members of NATO?
Well, I can see 2 windows of opportunity. One is this kind of more rapid window, February, March, before Turkish parliament goes to the break and election break. Elections are in the end of the spring. Mm-hmm. Or then the very small slot, which is in June, July, before the NATO summit in Vilnius. If it's postponed from that, I think it's difficult to see where we are, because then the postponing has been more than one year, and it's of course unfortunate both for Finland and Sweden.
So would you say that you're essentially working against the clock at this stage?
Yes, that's what we are doing. We actually maintain, of course, a very good dialogue all the time with the Turkey. I called between Christmas and New Year to my colleague Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. We discussed actually many other things than Finnish accession to NATO. We discussed about the Syria, we discussed about Afghanistan, we discussed about the Ukraine, Russia and so forth. So we have maintained a very good dialogue with Turkey, and of course we hope that the next steps could be taken soon.
Let's look more broadly at Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's a huge question mark now about when and if Germany is going to send tanks to support Ukraine. From a Finnish perspective, should Germany go ahead with that?
Well, we think that Ukraine needs tanks and heavy weapons, and Finland has already been sending 11 packages of military help to Ukraine, and we are just preparing the 12th package, and these are really meaningful military aid to Ukraine. But of course Ukraine needs more, and for example the Leopard tanks that are made in Germany, some countries like Poland or Finland, we have also the same model. And I think it would make sense to gather countries together to donate some amount of these weapons. And of course, in that sense, Germany is crucial. First, to give something from their own tanks, and then secondly, giving the permission to others, because they are made in Germany. The permission is needed, the permission to others like Poland and others to move on.
And we are essentially almost a year since this invasion began. How would you describe the state of the war at this stage?
Well, this has been a long war, much longer maybe than at least Russia was seeing and predicting, and certainly longer than what we have seen what we waited in Europe and in US. I think there are some good signs. One is that Europe is working really together. European Union is ahead on this with the European Peace Facility, working very closely with the US and UK, donating more material to Ukraine and so forth. So we have been showing our strengths of cooperation and so forth, also in the transatlantic cooperation. But secondly, of course, when we look where is the front, it's moving back and forth a little bit, but situation is what it is, and particularly the very cruel bombings and attacking civilians in Ukraine has been a shock. And of course, I visited actually Kiev in December and saw all this destruction of the infrastructure like electricity and so forth. The life of citizens are becoming very, very difficult in Ukraine.
Is it feasible to expect a resolution in the short term, or do you think this is going to be a long-standing conflict on the European continent?
Well, at the moment I would guess for the long conflict. When we look at the situation, Russia is very unwilling to withdraw, very unwilling to talk with the international community and with Ukraine. And of course we have at the table President Zelensky's peace proposal. I think it's important that we work on that. We also have the question of accountability with the International Criminal Court and others. It's important that we work for that, but we have to be prepared for a long conflict.
And just finally, Minister Haavisto, assuming that this is going to be a long conflict, what can you and your European partners do to help Ukraine? Because you have put forward unprecedented sanctions on Russia. These are not really working because the invasion has continued, the war continues. What else can you do?
Well, first of all, sanctions, I think they are working, but of course it's a long haul when you work with this type of sanctions. But for example, sanctions on energy and so forth, and even actually how this has been speeding the green transition on the European continent is very important. Secondly, of course, is already we are planning the reconstruction packages for Ukraine, and I think this will be a huge reconstruction task, and I think the cooperation again, transatlantic cooperation is very important on that. And thirdly, at the moment, Ukraine needs weapons, and these weapon packages are very important, like the tanks and other heavy weapons that we can give to Ukraine.
So the focus for now is indeed providing more weapons, more artillery, so Ukraine can keep battling.
That's important, and whenever you think about the peace and possible negotiations in those talks, of course, Ukraine has to be in as good position as possible, and for that they need a good defense.